we have to accept that there's a lot of anger out there. A lot of anger after the last election.
We have been dominated by Eastern politicians and Eastern politics. Our resources have been landlocked.
That there is a large and growing number of Albertans that have lost hope in Alberta having a free and prosperous future as a part of Canada.
If I have a vote, resounding yes.
Alberta's frustration has reached a boiling point, and it's only a matter of time before something really snaps. Carney's unexpected victory in the recent election has triggered an intense wave of anger and division across the country, especially in Alberta. While Carney claims his win represents a victory for Canadian unity, the reality is far more complicated. For many in Alberta, this election was not just about who won. It was about feeling unheard, overlooked, and ignored. This victory has reignited a firestorm of discontent in the province. A fire that could very well turn into a full-blown push for independence. Could this be a final straw that leaves Alberta to demand its own future, separate from Ottawa? Today, we explore what this political shift really means for Canada and why it could signal the end of Alberta's place in the Federation. Carney's victory speech is full of promises to unite Canada, push forward on climate change, and protect Canadian sovereignty. But let's be honest, are these really the things Canadians need right now? Or is it just another push towards a more centralized government, disregarding the needs of provinces like Alberta? Let's break it down. The Liberals, under Carney's leadership, secured a shocking win in 2025 election, with many analysts attributing the shift to a deepening distrust in conservative politics, especially under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre. But what does this really mean for the country? And more importantly, what does it mean for Alberta? Mark Carney's unexpected rise in Canadian politics is a story in itself. From economist to Bank of Canada's governor to now Prime Minister of Canada, Carney is not your typical politician. His leadership during the global financial crisis gave him credibility. But it also alienated a large portion of Canadian population who now see him as out of touch with the average citizen's struggles. With Carney, we are looking at a man who talks unity, but his policies may be the ones that fracture the country even more. He is seen as an elitist by many in the West. His background in global banking, his history with the Liberal Party, and his advocacy for environmental policies have made him a divisive figure. So, with the Liberals back in power, now how does Carney plan to steer Canada forward? Before we go any further, please like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. It's not gonna cost you anything, but it's gonna support me big time. Thank you so much. Now back to our topic. Let's zoom in on Alberta, the province that's feeling the heat more than anyone else. Alberta has long been a province that prides itself on its energy sector, its resource-driven economy, and a conservative political stance that stands in stark contrast to the rest of Canada's liberal-dominated cities. For years, Alberta has watched as the federal government pushed forward policies that undermine its oil and gas industry, imposed carbon taxes, and generally turned a blind eye to its needs. Under Carney's leadership, many in Alberta fear a continuation or even an escalation of policies that do not reflect the province's interests. Carney's track record with environmental regulations in the UK does not inspire much confidence in Alberta's oil sector. In fact, some believe that his rise to power could mark the final nail in the coffin for Alberta's once thriving oil industry. Alberta has long argued that the rest of Canada does not understand or care about the energy sector. But with Carney in power, Alberta may be facing a future where their very economic foundation is threatened by the policies designed to tackle climate change at any cost. And here is where it gets interesting. For years, Alberta has been growing restless. with many residents feeling that their voices are being drowned out by the federal government in Ottawa. The question now is Carney's victory the tipping point that sends Alberta over the edge? The Alberta Sovereignty Act, proposed by Danielle Smith, already signaled the province's desire for more autonomy. And with Carney's leadership threatening to bring more federal control, Alberta's push for full independence may not be far behind. Alberta has gathered signatures, rallied citizens, and built a movement that's pushing for more than just autonomy. Some even argue that it is time for Alberta to move away from Canada entirely. The Alberta Sovereignty Act is already in place, giving the province the tools in the face of federal overreach, particularly on climate change and economic restrictions, could be the final straw for Albertans who feel the only way forward is independence. Now, let's take a closer look at the policies Carney will likely push forward. He's already promised to continue with climate change initiatives, potentially making it harder for Alberta oil and gas industry to thrive. He has also hinted at higher taxes and stricter regulations on business and the economy. All of this points to a future where Alberta could become a marginalized province under Carney's leadership. Let's break down the numbers. Alberta contributes nearly 20% of Canada's GDP, with the majority of that coming from oil and gas sector. Carney's proposed policies could severely hurt this, pushing Alberta's economy into a recession. And when Alberta's economy suffers, so does the rest of the country. It is no secret that Alberta's resources keep Canada running. And if Carney pushes too far, Alberta's frustration could spill over into a full-blown push for independence. Alberta's push for independence is not just about economic concerns. It's about a sense of national identity. Many in Alberta feel that they have been ignored by Ottawa for too long. They see Carney's win as another step in a centralized government that does not care about their unique challenges. For Alberta, independence is no longer just a theoretical idea. It's becoming a realistic possibility. Imagine this. Alberta gets independence from Canada. It would have access to its own oil wealth, control over its own resources, and the freedom to chart its own economic future. For many Albertans, this is the only way forward. What would independence look like for Alberta? We'll be rich. Let's talk about the logistics of Alberta becoming independent. It would require a referendum, of course, but with a growing population of frustrated residents, the idea is gaining traction. The Alberta government would need to negotiate with Canada over issues like border control, trade, and the sharing of resources. But there is a precedent. Look at Scotland. Look at Brexit. Countries can and do break away from larger unions. And with Carney in power, Alberta may just be the next province to take the lead. What's next for Canada? Carney's victory is just the beginning of a new chapter in Canadian politics. The federal government, under his leadership, will likely continue to push its progressive agenda. But the cracks are already forming. Alberta's frustrations are bubbling to the surface, and the sovereignty movement is gaining momentum. If Carney does not tread carefully, he could find himself facing the most significant political challenge of his career. In Alberta, that is no longer part of Canada. So, where does that leave us? It's clear that Mark Carney's victory is a turning point. For many, it's a victory for progressive policies and unity. But for others, it's the final push towards Alberta's independence. And if Carney's policies continue to ignore the needs of the West, we may just witness the end of Canada as we know it. Mark Carney may have won the election, but the real battle is just beginning. Alberta's sovereignty movement is gaining steam, and it's only a matter of time before the true consequences of Carney's victory begin to take shape. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the Alberta independence movement and the future of Canada under Mark Carney. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.